You can buck trends in your industry, but in the marketplace, you better ride the waves they give you. If you want to win the future, you better win the 80%. This means you need to become known, you need to become trusted, and you have to do it before you've met them. You always see the most innovation when we're hungry. The great companies don't need to be forced to be hungry. The reason why someone gives you money in exchange for a good or a service comes down to one single emotion: trust. They trust you. Trust is a principle. Trust won't die. Trust will evolve with everything that happens in the future. We got to start with this number right here, 80%. This is what we know to be true, that today's buyer, on average, by the time they reach out to you, by the time they pick up the phone, by the time they fill out that form on your website, on average, they're 80% through the buyer's journey. That's what we know. Now, let's go back in time. What's your name? Caleb. Let's say it's 25 years ago, Caleb. The internet's just getting started, right? We don't have everything in the world at our fingertips like we do now. How far do you think somebody was through the buyer's journey before they talked to a salesperson 25 years ago, if you had to make a guess? 20%. And if I had to make a guess, I would have said the exact same thing. 20 to 30% would have been my guess. So that's where we were 25 years ago. Today, we're at 80%. So the question is for you, me, and everyone in this room is, where's this number going to go over the next 5, 10, 15 years? Where's it going to go? That's right. Is it ever going to go back? No. Now, this is really important because we have to accept trends for what they are. Many businesses, business owners, buck trends that are happening in the marketplace. You can buck trends in your industry, but in the marketplace, you better ride the waves they give you. And this is one of those that's not going back. Because if this is true, which department of your organization has a greater impact on the actual sale? Is it the sales department or the marketing department? Which one? That's right. Yet generally speaking, when times get tight, the first department that gets cut is marketing. You see it? And when we're trying to grow the business, we hire sales. Now listen, I'm not anti-sales at all. In fact, I started as a sales guy, and you'll see that today. But if you want to win the future, you better win the 80%. This means you need to become known, you need to become trusted, and you have to do it before you've met them. Before you've met them, they need to feel like they know you and they trust you. I'm going to show you today exactly how you can do that. That's my promise to you. That's my commitment to you. Now, my quick story, I used to be a pool guy. Started this company in 2001 called River Pools. Things were going okay up until 2008, 2009. We all remember what happened 2008, 2009. For those of you that had a business during that time, not a very good period of time for pool guys, right? And things were so bad that I can recall within 48 hours of the crash of 2008, 48 hours of it, I had 5 people withdraw deposits on a pool and said, Marcus, we can't do it. So for us, that meant we lost $250,000 in the first 48 hours of the crash. And then over the coming weeks, it got worse and worse. And by January 2009, I was this close to bankruptcy. And some of you have felt that before. And the beauty behind being a small business owner is when you file bankruptcy, you also lose your home. Your business partners lose their homes, and of course, all your employees lose their jobs. But the beauty of pain and suffering is it forces us to do things we otherwise wouldn't have done. You always see the most innovation when we're hungry. That's when we innovate. We don't innovate when we're fat and happy. I don't mean any harm, but most people in this room, especially from a marketing standpoint, we're not innovating jack squat in 2021 because you had so many leads. But suddenly, over the last year and a half, we've seen innovation start to rear its beautiful head again because we're starting to get hungry. The great companies don't need to be forced to be hungry. I'm going to show you that. But because we were in this pain, that's when I started to read about digital and inbound and content and that stuff that, is all these marketing phrases. And what I heard in my simple pool guy mind was, Marcus, if you just obsessed over your customers' questions, worries, fears, and you're willing to address them online, on your website, you might save your business. So I said, well, if there's one thing I can do, I can listen well, I can address those questions, I can become essentially the Wikipedia, the WebMD of fiberglass swimming pools. And so that's what we did. I can recall one night brainstorming every single question I'd ever received as a salesperson for my company. And I had hundreds of questions that I had written down on this little sheet of paper. And then over the next few years, I started to answer each one at night through text, through video, etc. And we would go on to become the most trafficked swimming pool website in the entire world. And I'm going to show you briefly how we did that this morning. And from that came a movement that many of you have actually started to embrace. Who here has read They Ask You Answer, by the way? All right, good for you. Good for you if you've read it. For those that haven't read it, you're going to get a ton of value. For those that have read it, you're going to see that there's another iteration that's happening that's very, very exciting right now. And so They Ask You Answer is a true obsession with what buyers want, how they think. And the test is, are we willing to meet them where they are? Because they is the buyer. You is the business. And when I say They Ask You Answer, we're talking about if there is a behavior that they prefer, do we meet them where we are, or do we say, that's just not my thing. That's not how I roll. That's not the way that I'm wired. Because the only one that matters in business is they. That's the only one that matters. Now, I always have one big fear though. That I talk to you this morning, you say to yourself, this is wonderful, this is great, but you see our situation here, Dylan, what's the name of your company? Finishing Touch Painting. Our situation at Finishing Touch Painting, it's different. You know, Marcus, that might have worked for you as a pool guy in Virginia, but here at Finishing Touch Painting in Prescott, Arizona, I just don't think that would apply. Now, Dylan, how many people in this room think their situation is different? Go ahead and say everybody, because that's the right answer. Everybody does. But here's what's interesting. The way somebody engages you and your business doesn't change from industry to industry. The reason why people do business with you, Brandon, is the same reason why Benji and James brought me here today. They felt something towards me that allowed them to say he's worth the investment. Let's choose him versus all these other speakers we could have chosen. The reason why someone gives you money in exchange for a good or a service comes down to one single emotion. And that emotion will never change. It's the battle you're in every single day. And that emotion that allows someone to give you money in exchange for a good or a service is what? Trust. Comfort, trust. They trust you. Now, if I said to you, Michelle, is trust going to be fundamental to your business success in 10 years, what would you say? 100%, 20 years, yes or no? Now, if I said to you, is Google going to be fundamental to your business in 20 years? What would you say? Maybe. That's because Google is a platform. Trust is a principle. Trust won't die. Trust will evolve with everything that happens in the future. We don't even know if Google's going to exist as we know it in 10 years, much less 20. That's why you build your business on principles, and you just might be built to last. Along with this idea of, but that won't work for us, let me teach you about something this morning that will change your life if you really understand it. Businesses, relationships, entire civilizations rise and fall on this thing called the pride cycle. So how does the pride cycle work? And some of you experience this over the last few years since COVID, as a matter of fact. You see, oftentimes we find ourselves in this place of prosperity. We're feeling good. Things are going well. And because things are going well, maybe we forget to do some of those little things that got us to the top in the first place. And because we forget to do those little things, well then what happens? Oh gee, we go back to pain. We say, how did this happen? For some of you, this was 2021, prosperity. For some of you, this was 2024, pain. I'm not saying it was like that for everybody, but this is what we see. And when we hit pain, because we say, oh gee, I ate too much over the holidays, and we look down the scale and we say, I don't like what it says, well then we start the little things over again. And then because we start to do the little things over again, we make that extra call, we send that extra email, we go that extra mile, we have that extra conversation, whatever that thing is, because we do that, suddenly we get to a place of prosperity again. And the whole reason why you see your life going in cycles is because of this. You go from a place of prosperity to pain to prosperity to pain. The companies that are the great ones, the ones that are built to last, they live in this place of do the little things, even if they're at their highest prosperity level. They're not forced to innovate. They innovate because that's what the market needs. They even replace themselves. If you look at all the reasons why these big companies have fallen, it's because of the pride cycle. If you look at your relationships in your life and why they go well and poorly, it's because of the pride cycle. Things going bad. You get counseling. You realize, we stopped doing date night. Maybe we should get back to that. That's right. You need to get back to that if you want to stay in a place of prosperity. So my ask for you today, and of course through this conference as we have this incredible planning and learning day, is that we come from this place of, I need to be open. This does apply to me. I am in the business of trust. I'm gonna ask you to do things that challenge the way you've done business. That's good, that's why you came. We didn't come here to sing Kumbaya. We came here to be challenged. I'm gonna challenge you. I want you to think, oh geez, I don't know if I could do that. I want you to be nervous about the things I asked you to do. That means you're growing. That means it's good. And the ones that are gonna innovate, they're gonna do the little things. If you're willing to do that and have that mindset, everybody say yes. Okay, good.